Happy Monday. Welcome to this week's edition of Sermon Scraps, where this week we finished Mark chapter 1. We looked at verses 21 through 45 this week. So last week we saw the beginnings of Jesus' ministry. This week was looking at what Jesus started doing as soon as he started his ministry. There's only two things that I wanted to expand a little bit on this morning in connection to the text. And that is, firstly, Jesus' primary ministry versus the implications or application of that ministry. So remember, I emphasized throughout this text, the primary reason Jesus says that he came is to teach. So he after teaching initially, that he does a couple healings that just serve to validate or affirm his teaching is true, and then he runs away from the fame and accolade and recognition, and then he says in verse 38, "Let us go on to the next towns, that I may preach there also, for that is why I came out." Now we have a tendency to mistake or misplace the ministry that Jesus is emphasizing, and some of this is important for us to realize, even affecting us as the church today. What is the church supposed to be focusing on in our ministries today? Because there's a lot of good things that come out of the ministry, but what is the primary thing that the church exists to do and be? We as a staff a couple weeks ago worked through the question, what is the mission of the church? There's a book I've got here by Kevin Young and Greg Gilbert, titled "What is the Mission of the Church? Making Sense of Social Justice, Shalom, and the Great Commission." And some of this is difficult to discern or work through, because there's a lot of good things that are applications or implications of the church. So you look historically at what the church has done. You've got things like food shelves. You've got things like hospitals. Like even the word hospital comes out of hospitality, which is an incredibly Christian word. There's a reason that most hospitals today, before they get bought out by the big conglomerations, are named after saints or Christians who have gone before. It's because Christians are the ones who are most committed to caring for people who are disenfranchised in the world around us. But as we have this conversation, there's a difference between what individuals or small groups of Christians are called to and what the church as a whole is called to. So there are applications or implications to what the church does, can do, should do, all these kinds of pieces. But the church cannot do everything, nor should the church try to do everything. So there's a blog that I've shared with a few different groups of people at the church, titled "When Churches Can't Do Everything," by one of the guys that wrote this book, Kevin DeYoung. Kevin served as in actually with some of our members in Pella, Iowa, or not Pella, sorry, Orange City, Iowa. I think RCA Church, moved from there to Michigan and now serves at a PCA church in North or South Carolina. I don't remember which one. However, "When Churches Can't Do Everything" is a really helpful article that I think does a good job of summarizing how we can be more strategic and intentional behind the resources that we are committing to. So the article starts with, I'm just going to walk through a broad overview of it, when pastors have to say no. And there are times and instances where we do have to say no. And here's some of the reasons why. First is not right now. And I said that a lot when I first got here, because there were a lot of people that were itching to do a lot of ministries, and I just wanted to spend some time getting to know the people and our culture and our church a little bit better. So I told a lot of people, not right now. That's a great thing to be doing, but we can't do it in either the season of church that we're in or with the time that we have right now. Second one, not the mission of the church. Remember, and I'm just going to read what Kevin says in this article. "If the priority of the church is the Great Commission, then there are all sorts of good things the local church will not pursue. Everything from reducing unemployment to planting trees in the local park to spearheading specific political efforts. All those things are good things, but they are not things that the church can do. Remember, we are called uniquely to make disciples and make and mature disciples, if you read the Great Commission. That is what we are supposed to be focusing on. All those other things are the implications of what we're focusing on. Third one, it's not our strategy. We have to be intentional and strategic about how we're going to pursue making and maturing disciples of Jesus, which means some good things that have worked at other churches or for other people or in other contexts may not work here. Another one is not enough time. This is one that I feel regularly. I only have a certain amount of bandwidth, and so there's only so much I can do in the course of a week. I've got a family that I'm supposed to love. In fact, the Bible says that if I am not primarily caring for my family, then I have no business taking care of the church. So one of the things that I have committed to is with rare exception, I will only do 3 church nights a week, which means I have 4 nights a week where I'm spending with my family. I want that priority to always, my family to always realize that a majority of my evenings are reserved for time with them. The last one, and this is the hardest one to give to people, is not interested. And sometimes people have great desires and great ministry ideas, but it's not something that we're interested in partnering with. And then after that, the article goes on to talk about thinking it through. And one of the things that I want to emphasize is just the first one in here, and that is lots of amazing ministry takes place that is never an official ministry of the church or on the church budget or announced in the church service. So just because this is not something that we as a church are able to get behind or partner or support doesn't mean it's not worth doing. There are all sorts of ways that I would hope and pray that you guys can be involved and engaged in the local community, whether that is homeless ministry, whether that is the food shelf, that we have a couple people that are very devoted to taking care of that. There's all sorts of good, Amnion is another one that is a great ministry that is taking place that is not the primary mission of the church. Again, it's an implication, something that we should care about, that we should pray towards, that we should be looking to see his kingdom come and his will be done on earth just like it is in heaven. But those are good things for individual Christians to pursue, not the entire church to pursue. Now, again, well, I'll just say this: all of you are commissioned in some way, in some form, in some fashion. So the church is going to support and pray for and encourage you in using the gifts that God has given to you, even if it's not an official ministry of South Suburban. The second thing I just wanted to talk about a little bit further is the last part on that is with the leper, and I'll attach a link to that article that I just mentioned in the email that I send out with this as well. Second thing with the leper is the need for all of us to bring all your sin into the light and give it to Jesus. I think there's a tendency, at least as I was growing up in churches, to almost put up this false front or facade of having everything together, acting like you don't need help, acting like you are your own strong, independent person. When the reality is, all of us have some areas or needs in our life that only Jesus can help fix and help solve. And so we need to bring those things to him. We don't need to run away from him, pretend like we need to get our act together before we come to Jesus. We actually need him to reach into all those areas in our life that are completely broken and misaligned, and trust that he is going to bring goodness out of that brokenness. I mean, I'm encouraged because there's all of us are broken in some form and fashion, so seeing other people who are broken coming together for encouragement, for support, and that's some of why we need the church, is we need other people to live out and demonstrate what Jesus looks like, what he is, the implications of his ministry and service to us on a regular basis. So if you are not in some form of community, if you don't have people that are lovingly engaged in relationship with you, who can hold you accountable, who can encourage you, who can support you, I'd encourage you to reach out to us and find ways or groups or small groups or classes or other people that are spending time together so that you can continue becoming more and more like Christ. And that is the goal. That's why we exist, is encouraging people to take one step closer to Christ in every season of our lives. So that is all I want to talk about with Mark 1. I took extra time than I should have yesterday with the message, so I wanted to just explore some of those other issues. If you got any questions about it, feel free to reach out to me. Don't forget to grab your journal Bible as we continue walking through this book. Again, we're going to be walking through it for a long time, so get excited for that. We'll continue this in Mark 2 this next week, and I hope you have a wonderful week. Lord willing, we'll see you on Sunday.